Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Rabbi.
We are learning Mishnayos Pesachim, Perek Beis, Chapter 2. We're going to do two Mishnayos this morning, Aleph and Beis. Okay. Kol sha shamuter lechol. As long as it is permissible to eat, as long as it's permissible to eat chametz, macha labehema lachaya v'la'ifes. You can now feed the chametz to a domesticated animal, to a wild animal, to birds. Umachar l'nachri, you could sell it to a non-Jew. Umuter bana asai, and it's permissible to have benefit from it. Okay, so let's analyze this. The wording is, as long as it's permissible to eat, you can feed it to your animals.
Mm-hmm.
That means as long as it's permissible to eat, you can have benefit from it. Now, if you remember beforehand, that's not necessarily true. Depends who you hold like. If you remember, according to Rabbi Yehuda, which we paskin like, there are 3 periods. There's a point of time, there's up to 4 hours you can eat.
Right.
In the 4th and the 5th, you can have benefit. And at the beginning and at the end of the 5th, the beginning of the 6th, you got to burn. So that's not necessarily true. As long as it's permissible to eat, you can have benefit. It's true, but it goes past that too.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the Bartanura points out that the wording of the Mishnah indicates that we're actually following the opinion of Rabban Gamliel. If you remember, Rabban Gamliel was of the opinion that even though you have to stop eating chametz at the end of the 4th hour, that's only by chulin, not by truma. If it's truma, you get an extra hour to eat it. And the fact that the Mishnah worded it in this way, that it says, as long as it's permissible to eat, you can feed. If we wanted to say just that, as long as you can eat, you can feed, it should have said, kol sha'oichel, as long as one eats, machel, it can feed. Why are we talking about as long as it's permissible to eat, you can feed? You know, in the construct of the Mishnah, it should be the same. It should either say, as long as it's permissible to eat, it's permissible to feed. As long as you can eat, you can feed. The fact that it changes is actually showing us that we're not talking about the same person. We're talking about 2 different people. And according to Rabbi Gamliel, that fits very well. Because the point, according to the Mishnah, according to Rabbi Gamliel is as long as it's permissible for the Kohen to eat truma, that's chametz, you, the non-Kohen, can feed your animal. Which means that even though you, the non-Kohen, have to stop eating chametz by the 4th hour, by the end of the 4th hour, since the Kohen can still eat his truma in the 5th hour, you, non-Kohen, could feed your animals and have benefit from it. That's the point. That's how to read the Mishnah. The truth is, at the end of the day, there is no practical difference. Because even if you don't hold up Rabbi Gamliel, there's a difference between truma and not truma when it comes to chametz. At the end of the day, the halach is like Rabbi Yehuda, that in the 5th hour, you're allowed to have benefit. You can't eat them, you're allowed to have benefit, which is really what Rabbi Gamliel, what this Mishnah is saying also, that in that 5th hour, between 10 and 11, you'll be able to have benefit from chametz. So the benefit that the Mishnah mentions is, you can feed it to animals. Mm-hmm. You can sell it to a non-Jew. And you're permitted to have benefit. Now, the question that's asked is that the things that we just mentioned, feeding to your animals and selling to a guy, that's considered having benefit. Why does the Mishnah have to now repeat, and it's permissible to have benefit? And therefore, the answer is that the Mishnah is talking about a following scenario. You had chametz, and you burnt this chametz before the time that chametz was aser. You burnt it in the permissible time to have chametz, but you burnt it to the point that you charred it. It's inedible. If that's what you did to the chametz before chametz becomes forbidden, even after chametz becomes forbidden, you can have benefit from it.
Okay.
Because you made it charred before the time that if the chametz would have first become forbidden and then you charred it, it's not going to help you.
Mm.
But if you charred it before it became forbidden, you're allowed to have benefit from it. Whatever you're going to have benefit from this charred stuff, maybe you make it into shampoo or something like that, soap or shampoo. At the end of the day, since when it became inedible or unusable, it was before the chametz became forbidden. Even after the time chametz becomes forbidden, you can have benefit from it. That's the point of these words, and it's permissible to have, and you're permitted to have benefit from it. Avar Zmanoi, once the time passes, meaning once you're past the 5th hour, that means at this point you have to burn it. Asr Banasai, you're not allowed to have benefit from it. You cannot feed it to your animal then. You cannot sell it to a guy. Nor can you heat up a tanner kirayim. Tanner kirayim are different types of stoves. Actually, they call one an oven and one a stove. Oh yeah, tanner v'kirayim. Right. Tanner an oven, the kirayim is stove. Meaning, although you're obligated, you'll be burning it and you'll be destroying it. You might think, well, while I'm destroying it, maybe I can have benefit from it. I'll heat up my stove with it. The answer is no, you can't do that. When you're destroying it, then you even as you're destroying it, you cannot have benefit from it. Okay, that's the first part of the Mishnah. Next part reads, Rabbi Yehuda says, the only way to remove chametz, the Torah obligates us to remove chametz. The only way to remove it, the only way to eliminate it is burning. Rabbi Yehuda learns from the law of nosar. Nosar is a carbon that when past its time to be eaten, the leftover meat has to be burned. So he learns chametz from nosar, from the leftover sacrificial meat, the same way that has to be burned, this has to be burned. The Chachamim say, Af mefarer v'zer l'ruach matal yam. You could crumble it up and throw it to the wind or throw it into the ocean. You don't have to burn it. You can eliminate it in other ways that it's completely destroyed. It doesn't have to be burning. The Chachamim don't learn from Nosar that it has to be burned, and therefore they say that you could actually, even without burning it, just completely getting rid of it is also going to work. Let's do Mishnah Beis now. Chametz shel nachri, she'avar alav Pesach. The chametz of a non-Jew that path that went through Pesach. Muter bana, you'll have benefit from it. That means a guy's chametz, you're allowed to have benefit. Can you eat a guy's chametz after Pesach?
Can you eat a guy's? Yes.
Of course you can, right?
Yeah.
So the problem is, what does the Mishnah say about the chametz of a guy that passed through Pesach, that it's permissible to have benefit? Typically, when you say on something, that phrase, muter ba'ana, permissible benefit, usually means you're allowed to have benefit, but you're not allowed to eat. But that's not true by the chametz of a guy. The reason why the Mishnah used this wording, permissible to have benefit from it, is for it to conform to the wording, in order to kind of to fit in or to follow, to conform with the wording that we're about to have. V'shal Yisrael, but the chametz of a Jew that went through Pesach, meaning the Jew owned it over Pesach, asr ba'ana, you're forbidden to have benefit from it. Shenamar, as the pasuk states, lo yireh l'cha sa'ar, leaven shall not be seen by lo yireh l'cha sa'ar, leaven shall not be seen l'cha in your possession. Now, that doesn't say that it's asr ba'ana, it just says you're not allowed to possess it. But the point of the Mishnah is that because there's a prohibition of owning the leaven, owning the chametz, the Chacham, the sages, instituted a fine for doing so. So because you transgressed this prohibition, the Chachamim instituted a fine, and that fine is that because you own the chametz of a Pesach, which means that the prohibition of owning chametz was transgressed, you're not allowed to have benefit from it evermore. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Rabbi.
So meanwhile.